Shalom, welcome everybody. This is Parashat Lekh-Lekha from Genesis 12 through 17. If you want to raise your hand or mark on the screen, here's how you can do it. And I'd like to jump forward a little bit to the part of the story where Lot has been taken and Abram wants to rescue him. Who would like to be my first reader?
I can try.
Go for it. Go ahead, please, Monica.
ויקחו את לוט ואת רכושו בן אחי אברהם ויקלו והוא יושב בסדום.
בסדום. ויקחו
ויקחו
את לוט ואת רכושו בן אחי אברהם וילכו. I got a cancellation mark right here, so the stress goes there. וילכו והוא יושב בסדום. All right, what we're looking at here is they did it, narrative past tense. We know it's narrative past, consecutive action because of this vav patach dagesh. It tells us what happens next in the story. What happened next? Yikhu. The yod at the front and the u at the end says that they are the subject. They? Who's they? Who are they? That's referring to the kings that were fighting. They took Lot and all of his possessions. Et Lot, this is our direct object marker. What did they take? This. Oh, look, and there's another one right there. So they also took this, right? So there's Lot and there's Rechusho. Rechush is possessions, and the O at the end means what?
Yes.
O at the end means it's his. His who? Well, probably referring back to Lot. Great. Which Lot are we talking about? Ben Achi Avram. Ben, son of, Achi, brother of, Avram. Is this a three-part construct chain? Son of the brother of Abram.
It is, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Remember that Lot was the nephew of Abram, so he was the son of the brother of Abram. Vayelechu. Oh, here's another consecutive or narrative past, consecutive action. What happened next? And then yod at the front, u at the end, same as before. They lech. I feel like we're missing a letter here. Shouldn't there usually be three? Lech is related to halach. We don't get to see the hey there. Incidentally, we only had two letters above as well. What letter was missing there? Kach.
Lamed.
This is the only verb that has a missing lamed. It's lakach, to take. Somebody took the lamed, I guess. Vehu.
Can I have a question about this?
Go ahead, Cheryl.
There's an etnachta, but it's not the usual accent on the yel vayehu. Is that because that is considered pausal as well?
It is. It is. Absolutely. It is considered pausal. What's the regular form of this verb?
Vayelechu.
The difference is where the stress goes. So instead of putting it on the lamed, put it all the way at the end, which causes this vowel to drop down. Remember that long vowels in open syllables, if they're too far away from the stress, they will reduce down. Well, it's not very far from the stress. I know. I wish I had a better example. It's vayelechu. Vayelechu. When we think of the standard form of a yiktol verb, like yishmor, we see the same dropping down of a long vowel right here whenever we add the same u. It's not Yishmoru anymore, but rather it drops down. Yishmaru. Unless it's in pausal form like this one is here. Pausal form is going to happen on this cantillation mark, on this cantillation mark, and occasionally on some others, like a katon. I don't see one here. Katon is the one that has the two dots on top. Sometimes you'll get a pausal form there. Why is pausal form important to us? Why do we care? Do we care?
It tells us sort of where commas are or where groups and phrases are, especially for people who are listening.
Very good. The stress. Yeah, exactly. We're so used to reading things from a book, we forget that the Torah was originally read to a congregation of people who didn't have Bibles in their laps. And so whenever you reach one of those pausal forms, it lets everybody know we've reached a logical, the end of a logical phrase, like a comma, a period, some sort of logical unit, a syntactic logical unit. So when they hear Vayelechu, everyone in the congregation goes, comma, pause. Vehu Yoshev Bisdom. Now, this should also be a pausal form right here, is it? I'm afraid not, because it's already a long vowel. Not all words will change in pausal form. But what are the differences if there is a pausal form? Pausal forms will lengthen a schwa, or lengthen a short vowel to a long vowel, or shift the stress to a penultima. So it could shift the stress or lengthen a vowel. And that's what it did here.
Uh,
Vehu, and he, Yoshev, that's a participle, right? He sitting. Well, maybe was sitting or dwelling. Bisdom. What is be at the front of this word?
In.
Preposition.
Yeah, it's actually the preposition in, but it changed from to be. Because you can't have two schwas at the beginning of a word. So it fixes it to a chirik. Instead of bisdom, it turns into bisdom. It's easier to pronounce. Bisdom. Sdom is referring to Sodom, the city of Sodom. All right, next reader. Okay, go ahead, Cheryl.
How did you know? Okay, I didn't press anything yet. Vayavo hapaltim, hapalit.
Mhm.
Vayavo hapalit vayagid
Sorry.
la'avram.
There are actually two dots right there. Sorry for the
Yeah.
font.
Vayaged la'avram העברי, והוא שוכן באלוני ממרא האמורי. אחי אשכול ואחי ענר, והם בעלי ברית אברהם.
And that's the end of the verse right there. So we know there's a period at the end. Very good reading. Vayavo hapalit vayaged le'avram ha'ivri, pause, vehu shochen be'elonei mamre ha'emori. This is a bit of a pause right there, just like this one was up there, the katon. This is the revia. Achi eshkol va'achi aner vehem ba'alei vrit Avram. Who is Baal?
It's like
I
the
w-
boss, the owner.
I
Very
was
good.
noticing that too
So
because
yeah, this is a maybe initially an uncomfortable word for some people because it looks an awful lot like Baal. And in fact, there's a connection between the two. Baal means owner, master. So if somebody is worshiping a false god named master or owner, well, that's a bad thing. But if you use the same root to say that you own or possess something, well, then it's not the same. So they are Baale, they are owners of. See the yod at the end means the construct. What are they owners of? Brit, a covenant. A covenant of what? A covenant with whom? Avram.
Rum.
What does it mean to have a covenant with Abram? Well, if somebody comes and attacks my people, you come help me. And if somebody attacks your people, then I'll come help you. Okay, this is the idea of having covenants with the people surrounding so that it's supposed to be safer. Vayavo, there's that narrative past again. Yod says he is the subject. And he, what's the root? Two
To
letters.
come.
Yeah, we're
Va.
missing a vav.
Ba.
We're missing a vav. Vavs are weak letters. To come, arrive. And he came. Who did? Hapalit. A palit is a refugee. It's someone who has escaped. Does anyone know the verb limalet or
To escape.
himalet? Turns out these are actually the same root, but we have a swap out between bilabial mem, ma, 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 and bilabial pa, 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 pa. The difference is whether your voice box is running. Otherwise, they're the same letter. Mama, papa, mama, papa. They're identical, except for the voice running. So apparently, they both come from the same root. Himalet is to escape, and or nimlat, with the nifal, you'll have a noon right there. What is limalet? That's a different binyan.
to escape.
Limalet is it's an intensive or PL binyan, and it's getting someone to run to safety. Okay, so limalet somebody means that you help somebody get away. So a palit was either originally palit or malit, but the point is it's the one who escaped away. It's all the same root. So an escapee, a refugee, came. Vayaged. Holy smokes, another verb that has a letter missing. What did he do? And then he ged. Where's the missing root letter? What is it?
The yod.
If you see a dagesh, suspect a noon before you do a yod.
Nagat. Nagat.
Right. So do we know anything that has to do with neged or nagad? Neged
Against.
is to oppose or face. Okay. If two people are facing each other, you can describe one as neged the other. Not necessarily in an opposition battle. It could just be two friends facing each other. Remember that Eve is called a ezer kenegdo
Yeah.
to her husband. She wasn't his enemy, but she was either facing an equal or opposite. So a lot of people will take that in a very preachy way and say, oh, the woman's there to help bring the man's crazy ideas down to reality. So she opposes him. It's like, well, that preaches pretty well. But it was probably originally having to do with equality because at first Adam could not find an Ezer Kenegdo when he was looking among the animals. Was it that none of the animals would oppose him or that they were not his equal? It's the same term. So it probably has to do with equals who are able to face each other, not like a king and a servant or a Caesar and a vassal, but rather as two equals.
What's Nagid? Nagid. That
Nagid,
word is in my mind.
Nagid, a Nagid is someone, okay, so there's the verb Nagid, which means we will tell or say. And it's the same verb as this one right here with a strong dagesh in it. Okay, here the noon is we, the missing noon is in there, and it's in the hif eel, so it gets a patach there and a chirik yod here. That chirik yod is gone in this verb because it's an apocryphated vayiktol. But it's the same verb. And then there's a noun, a nagid, which is one who is able to stand before and represent the people. Okay, a leader who stands across from the people that he represents. So this would be a leader, a nagid.
Thank you.
Vayaged, and he came opposite, that is to tell or say. So to sum up that original point, even though neged means to face, in the he feel, it means to face in order to have a conversation, that is tell. And he told le'Avram, to Abram, which Abram? Ha'ivri. This is probably the first time in the Bible where someone is called a Hebrew. Can anyone think of a different time that somebody called themselves a Hebrew in the Bible? Think stormy waters. Jonah. Remember when Jonah's on the ship and they're like, "Get up, man.
Yeah.
What are you sleeping? Who are you? You know, pray to your gods." And he says, oh, right. They had to draw
I don't
straws.
read this is happening.
Yeah, they had to draw straws, lots, and it fell on him. They're like, "Who are you? Where are you from?" He's like, "Ivri Anochi. Ivri Anochi. A Hebrew am I." So here we have Abram the Hebrew. What does it mean to be a Hebrew? Well, some people will say that he's a descendant of Eber, which is true. Other people will talk about how avar means to cross over. So he's from the other side, either because he worships one God instead of many gods. So he crossed over theologically to the other side, or that he's on the other side of the river. You know, most of the Fertile Crescent is up by the Euphrates. And if you cross over, you start getting into the Levant, which is where Abram is. So there's a lot of interpretations here. Vehu shochen. Vehu shochen. And he shochen. What words do you guys know related to shochen?
Ena,
Shochen.
Lishkon, Mishkan.
Mishkan. Mishkan is a dwelling place, a tabernacle. Shekhinah is the word that some people like to say Shekinah. It does not mean glory. It means presence, dwelling. So the Shekinah glory, the Shekhinah glory is the glory that is present when his presence is present. The idea here is dwelling. He was dwelling. It's actually a participle. But elone, an elon is an oak tree. But elone mamre, by the oaks of Mamre, ha emori. This is a gentilic chirik yod. It tells us what nationality. What is that nationality? The Amorites?
Amorites.
Amorites, yeah.
Ha is the.
Hmm?
Ha is the Amorites.
Ha means the, absolutely. The Amorite. Achi is ach in the construct form. Brother of Eshkol. Va'achi Aner, who is Aner, I don't know, some guy with a covenant with Abram. And brother of Aner Vehem, and they, Ba'alei Vrit Avram. They had a covenant. They were owners of a covenant with Abram. Okay, questions on this verse?
Just Ba'ale Vrit. When do we change? Is that because it's in is that because of the vowel
Is
before
what
the
because?
bet? Why it's a Vrit? Beirit, it's a Vrit instead of a
Oh,
Beirit.
yeah, absolutely. There's a vowel preceding the bet, so it lost the weak dagesh.
So does it matter if it's a short or a long vowel? I've been
No,
wondering.
no, no, no. It matters if there is any vowel sound whatsoever, whether it's a chirik, a patach. Here we lost it because of a long holam. Um, any more? This one has a weak dagesh because there's no vowel sound before it. I think that's all of
Okay, so so if it wasn't in construct,
yeah.
would it be Beirit? Would it be Brit if it was not in construct and there
Whether,
wasn't
but see, here's the thing: whether it's in construct is not the determining factor. It's whether the preceding word ends with a vowel.
at
So
any time? Okay.
at any time. Now it would be nice if we had an example, another example where we lose a begad kifat dot dagesh because of a preceding vowel, but I don't see one. I don't see one right here. Let me look in the next verse. Ah, here's another one. Look, this isn't well. It's also in construct, but my point is that it's missing the dagesh because of the vowel, not because it's in construct.
Oh,
Like, yeah, here it ends in a consonant, so you get a weak dagesh. Yeah, it's because
okay,
there's a
thank
vowel.
you.
That's all. All right, next reader. Ashlyn, would you like to read?
Sure.
Sure. You don't have to. I was just
Yeah, I will.
just ask. Go ahead, please.
Vayishma Avram ki nash ba arim ariv um vayarech et hani kain.
I wish we still pronounce that yod, but we don't.
So, I think okay. I'm still, bear with me. I'm still in a lesson 7. So
Would you
that
like me to read
last,
it? Would you like me to
yeah,
read it and then
please.
you repeat? Okay, so unfortunately we don't pronounce the yod. It's hanichav. Hanichav. Do
Botnichov.
you want me to keep reading or do you want to keep going?
I'd like to continue trying.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeli de vai to
Veto,
veto shmina
shmona.
shmona asar
There's a
vash
there's a holam right there that kind of blurs with the sheen dot.
valish or valosh
What
um
is the vav with the dot make?
uv
Ooh,
ush
okay.
ushlosh me I don't know what that all is going to do. I don't know. I haven't heard it
The
before.
aleph here is starting the syllable. Its vowel is the holam vav. So it's going to be me ot.
Ot,
Ot.
me'ot. Okay.
Three more words.
Vayir dov, yeah, dov. Ad dan.
Very good. Excellent. Vayishma Avram. There's a little pause. Ki nishba achiv. We actually don't pronounce this yod anymore either, but chirik yod, so it's a convenient um convenient that the chirik is right here. Achiv vayarek. So the stress goes here because of that goofy little cantillation mark. Vayarek et hanichav. We'll talk more about that. Yelidei veito shmona asar ushlosh meot. There's a comma right there. Vayirdof ad dan. All right. Vayishma.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashlyn.
Is there a certain set of circumstances that I can look for to know when that yod will not be pronounced?
Yes. Final yod vav.
Okay.
That's it. Final yod vav. Now, let me go ahead and talk about that since you've asked and because I wanted to come back to it anyway. It's really sad that we lost the pronunciation of that yod. Apparently, the pronunciation of these suffixes originally had a hey in it, like ehu, ehu. And hey being a bit of a soft letter, dropped out of pronunciation, and we're left with au. This is still attested in Aramaic, au and ao. But in Hebrew, it got dropped off and the vav turned into a consonantal V sound, which isn't even what the vav originally sounded like. Vav was originally a W. So someone really dropped the ball with this letter vav here. And unfortunately, because of it, this yod simply fell out of pronunciation after the hey did. So any final yod vav, you can kind of ignore the yod. Chanichav or achiv. Vayishma, and then he Shema Yisrael, right? This is the Shema we know, to hear. And he heard, who did? Avram. Ki, three different options for ki. What are they? Ki pulls triple duty.
That
Okay.
Because
is probably the easiest one to explain. Why? Ki, because it is a because word. It tells you the reason why. But here it's not translated as because it's showing us content. What did he hear? He heard that. Okay, I could give you a direct quote. I could say, my wife said, be home by 8. And that's like quoted. Bum, bum, bum. Or I could just kind of paraphrase it and said, my wife said that I should be home by 8. That's showing the content of what she said without giving a direct quote. That's the that of ki. It shows content. I know that the sky is blue. She said that I should be home early. I'm looking. What's another? I wish that the whole world speaks Hebrew. Okay, that's the content of my wish. There's a third option for ki, and it gives
or like an as, like
yeah, close. It's giving a certain instance or circumstance. Okay, suppose that you're a Hebrew who owns a servant. That's a verse in the Bible. The key says if or when or since in the case that so and so does such and such, then here's a law that you'll have to follow. If a man owns land, then he should pay a tithe. Okay, that if then sort of thing is sometimes represented as key in the sense of since or when. Whenever somebody does such and such, whenever somebody does this or that, then this is what should happen. So it shows a scenario. Those are the three jobs of key.
Yeah, I was thinking of just the letter K.
Oh, right. That's right. That's different.
He is,
by itself shows like or as.
So is that an article? What do you call the word key?
In Hebrew, it's actually considered something like a preposition because you're putting two things next to each other to compare them. And it also behaves like the other prepositions b and l. But I don't know in English whether it's actually a preposition.
But the word key, is that
Oh, excuse me. The word key, it's a
honestly?
conjunction.
Okay.
It's a conjunction. It combines one partial sentence with another partial sentence. What we would call in English a relative clause or a dependent clause. So key, blah 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 blah, is dependent on what was said before. Okay, so here it's going to be content because he heard it. What did he hear? Ki nishba achiv. Does anybody know a homonym that is also nishba, but means something very different?
Mhm. To make an oath.
Mhm. Nishba, like
A
this,
promise.
yeah, is to make an oath or swear something, and it comes from the root shava, which means complete. The idea is completing the oath that you say. But it's a different root, shin bet ayin instead of shin bet.
A.
No, yod.
Oh, yeah.
The root letter is a yod. It went missing, and now hey is standing in its place. Hey here is a vowel, so it's not a consonant. It can't be a root letter. The root is shin bet yod. Does anyone know the word shvi?
Oh, that's like a prison.
A prisoner. A shvi is a prisoner, or
Oh, that's where they get captive from. Okay.
and then
Mhm.
or shavui, like this, someone who is in captivity. So here we've got nishba. What is the noon there for?
It's Nifa.
Nifal, passive. Somebody has been taken shvi, captive. Who? Achiv. Ach is a brother. The yod is probably more historically accurate of a spelling. Achi, and then the vav at the end says it's his. This probably should have been originally Achihu, like that. Achihu, where Achi is the brother, and then Hu is he, belongs to him. But we lost the hey, and now it's just Achiv, which in my mind looks ridiculous. But here we are. Vayarek. What is the root of this word? Vayarek. I don't know. Do you?
Yes.
There seems to be a resh, and there seems to be a kuf, and in Vayiktol forms, a segol typically tells us that there might be a missing yod, or that the yod could be here, or that we've just got a missing yod over here. I don't know which one it is. I'd have to look it up. I encourage somebody else to look it up while we're in class. Maybe you can get back to us and give us an answer. But because of this ah sound right here, I would assume that there's a yod inside of here, which is weird to me because rek means empty. And he emptied? Well, here it's being translated as armed. So that's a weird one. That's a weird one on me. But apparently the translator thinks that it means armed or maybe readied et direct object marker, Chanichav. Does anybody know Enoch from the Bible? His name is Hanoch, and it comes from this root. Hanoch means to train up. The Department of Education in Israel uses this word too. Hanicha, raising up or training up. So here we have Hanichav, his trained up ones. Yelidei Veito. What does that mean, Yalid?
Born
It means that your
born
neighbor.
ones.
Yeah, it means
Born.
that you're kind of native. You're born into it. A Yalid is a native of a certain land. Are you from Israel or did you move to Israel? Ah, ani Yalid. I'm a native, right? Here it's Yelidei, the ones born of Veito, his house. How many? Shmona asar. Shmone is the normal feminine form for the word 8. Shmona is the, ironically, masculine form of the number 8. But there's a kamatei at the end. I know. Shmone is feminine. Shmona is masculine. It's a very confusing system. Numbers are so complicated that most Israelis get it wrong. Shmona asar, 8, 10. We'll call this 18. Ushlosh me'ot. Okay. Shalosh is the normal form, but because it's in construct, the long vowel reduced to a shva. Shlosh, 3 of me'ot, 100. Oh, that's 300. And why do we have an oo right here? It should have been va, which we know better as the, which means and. But if that va turns to va, we now have 2 shvas at the beginning of a word. We can't have that. So Hebrew fixes it. In front of a shva, it turns into oo. Or if it's in front of a bilabial letter, like a bet, a mem, a pei, or another vav. We call these bump letters. See? Bump. Bump letters. It'll turn into an oo. Shlosh me'ot, 300. So is this the masculine or the feminine form? Shlosh.
That's feminine.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's feminine. It's feminine because me'ot is feminine. Shlosh me'ot. How would you say 3,000? What's 1,000?
Elefim.
Elef or alafim. We'll call it alafim. How do you say 3,000?
Shloshet elefim.
Very good. So you could either say shlosha alafim or shloshet elafim. Either way, it has a feminine looking ending. Shloshet elafim. Why does it look feminine? Because it's actually masculine. Surprise! Because elef is also masculine. The feminine forms 3 through 10 ironically have a hey at the end, a kamatz hey at the end, or an original tav. So 318 men trained and born into his house. Vayirdof, radaf is to pursue, and then he pursued, probably referring to Abram, ad dan, until Dan. Where is Dan?
Safon.
The north
It's
of
up
Israel.
north. Wait, when was Dan born? Before or after Abram?
After.
Ah. Hmm.
So why are we having Abram going up to Dan if Dan doesn't exist yet?
Oh,
Was
really?
Dan named after the place?
I don't know. The Bible tells us something else. Remember that the women, the wives, were having a competition with each other, and the one says, "God will judge." So she named him Dan. My guess is that whoever was compiling the Bible probably updated the name of the place.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's a possibility too. It's kind of like when the Bible says that Israel was in Ramses. Remember when Israel was in bondage in Egypt? They were in a certain place that the Bible calls Ramses. That city didn't exist yet. Ramses didn't exist yet. So why is it in there? Because that's what it was later named.
Mhm.
There are actually plenty of examples of the compiler of the Bible updating the location name or possibly, oh, how about the Kasdim? Remember, Abram came from Ur of the Kasdim, the Chaldeans? The Chaldeans didn't exist over there yet. They wouldn't exist until the Babylonian exile. Somebody updated the name of the place.
Yeah, I've caught that one before.
There are plenty of examples in the Bible where somebody was trying to be helpful, and so it was actually an anachronism.
But I'm just gonna be honest, Dan, the place Dan, when Abraham went, I was like, okay, wait a minute, because of the meaning, there might have already been a place named that because people fight over land all the time.
No, remember that when the tribe of Dan moved up north, they named the place. The Bible says they named the place Dan because of their forefather. So
Okay.
I'm pretty sure even the Bible says it's named after Dan, the patriot.
Okay. I
All
was
right.
just thinking out there in the desert somewhere.
No,
Wait,
up in
okay.
Dan was beautiful. There were there was a whole bunch of water, lush vegetation. The problem is that the tribe of Dan was supposed to get their inheritance down close to the shore, where the Philistines were, and it was too hard to snag the land, so they gave up and they moved up north and ultimately assimilated into the Sidonian nations. We lost Dan, unfortunately. All right, who's the next reader? Okay, I will. Vayechalek alehem laila hu va'avadav vayakem vayirdefem ad chova asher mismol ledamasek. Vayechalek. Chelek is a portion. So vayechalek means that somebody divided. Well, why is there a tzere? What does that tzere tell us about the verbal form? It tells us what binyan or pattern the verb is. Think about it. Usually we have a chirik if it's a kal binyan, easy, regular binyan, or it would be a shva if, let's see, let me go ahead and do this. So chirik under the yiktol prefix letter tells us that we're looking at a kal binyan. A shva tells us that we're probably looking at a PL or a pual. What about a patach? A patach under that yiktol prefix letter, like this one, tells us that we're looking at a hifil. What I'm trying to do is show you, you can diagnose what binyan a verb is based on the vowel that shows up under the yiktol prefix letter. And the last one, well, the last one should actually be a chirik as well in nifal. But there should also be a dagesh, and that's the problem. Look up here. If this were a chirik with a dagesh in the next letter, nifal expects a dagesh because of the missing noon. But gutturals aren't going to take a noon, so instead they lengthen the preceding vowel. This is a nifal with a problematic guttural right there. The fact that it's nifal tells us that it's either passive or reciprocal, or reflexive or reciprocal. So he divided himself shows us the reflexive or reciprocal aspect of the word. He divided chalak himself. Alehem, al against hem, them. Laila, Lail is the normal form for Lila. I don't want to say that. Layil is probably the original form of the word Laila, and the kamatse was probably added as some sort of a paragogic or directional hey. Hey, when do you want to meet? Laila, towards the evening, towards the, something like that. And it became the normal form of the word for night. But the original was probably Layil. Same pattern as words like bayit or chayil or zayit. By night, hu v'avadav, he and his, plural, servants, avad, avadim, vayakem. What's the root of this verb? Anybody? It's a tough question.
Nakam. Noon.
It's
Nakam?
actually, it's nun kaf yod. Why is there a mem added to it?
Oh, it's the pronominal suffix.
It's a pronominal suffix. Good. So this refers to them. The vav and the yod say, and then he did something. The kaf in the middle is the only sole letter we get to see of this root. But there's also a dagesh in it, which reminds us of a missing noon. And the yod at the end, I'm sorry, there's no vestige of a missing noon here because of that suffix. Vayakem, and he defeated them. That's a lot of English words for one Hebrew word.
Isn't the third person masculine for defeated Nakam? Who Nakam?
Are
Or
you
maybe
thinking
that's
of
not
are you
Hebrew.
thinking of this root here?
Maybe. Yeah,
This
maybe.
is to avenge
Okay. Ah,
or revenge.
missed yourself.
Vayirdefem. There's another instance of M, and he pursued them from the root radaf. What binyan is this with a chirik?
Nifal?
Well, if it were nifal, there should also be a dagesh in the next letter or cause the vowel to lengthen like it did earlier. This is just a kal. Yirdof, to pursue. Vayirdefem, and he pursued them. Ad chova, up to chova. Asher, which is more information about chova. Mismol ledamasek. All right, you can probably tell what Damasek is. It's Damascus. But what's the word small? It's not the usual tzafon that we know as north. What is small?
Small is left
Small is to the left. In what
Thank you
universe? In what
for them.
universe does small mean north? Remember that if the cardinal direction is east, then that means yamin would be
South.
south and small would be
North.
North.
There are actually lots of examples of south being Yamina. Remember that Yemen, which is south of Israel, has the name built into it. Yamin, south.
I haven't heard that before. That's interesting.
All right, questions?
How do you know that Torah is a place name?
I guess because of context, you pursue someone up to blank, which is left of another place name. So I guess it would be because of the context that it looks like they're trying to give us geographic outlay. Plus, I guess if we lived there at the time, we'd be like, oh yeah, Chova, my nephew lives there. It does highlight, though, how kind of divorced we become from the land of the Bible and how important of a character it is in the Bible stories. I mean, really, we need to get back to the land and gosh, experience the land in order to know how important it is of a character in the biblical story. All right, who would like to read?
I will if no one else wants to.
Okay, go ahead, Cheryl.
וישב את כל הרכוש, וגם את לוט אחיו, ורכושו השיב, וגם את הנשים ואת העם.
Excellent, very good. Vayashev. Remember earlier when we were looking at Vayarek? I said, I'm not really sure, but I do see a segol right there, which tells me there's probably a yod. What's the root of this word? Vayashev.
להשיב.
Lehashiv, that's good. Lehashiv is the same verb. What's the root though?
שווה, שווה.
Shuv, isn't it?
Shuv. Where did the vav go? Problematic vav.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mike.
so the root is shuv, but in hefil we lose the vav. Does that mean the verb we saw earlier might have been a hefil? And that the root is ruk? Think of like a rucksack. Ruk. I don't know. I have no idea. I'll have to look it up. But here we're looking at shuv, which means come back, but it's in the hefil. Lehashiv. Cause to come back. That is return something. And then he caused to return what? It answers the question. Dum, 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 dum. Direct object marker. Kol ha-rechush. All of the goods. Wait a second. Is that a kamatz katan?
No.
Excellent answer. Why not?
Rechush is the word. It's ha is the. Our resh doesn't take a dagesh, so the hey has a kamatz under it instead of a patach.
Well stated.
Same
This
thing.
should have been a patach with a dagesh in the next letter. But resh doesn't like dagesh. So instead it lengthens the preceding vowel. That means we're looking at an ah vowel, not an o vowel. An o vowel doesn't belong here. Are there examples of words that have a kamatz katan at the front with a resh there? Yeah, of course, but not here. Plus, that would make, if there were an O vowel here, that would make a 1, 2, 3, 4 root letter word, which Hebrew is not a big fan of. So very good. This is a definite article with an ah. We expect an ah flavored vowel. So what does that tell you about this shva, silent or audible?
Audible.
Most certainly. After a long vowel is an audible shva. Very good. Is this also an audible shva?
No.
Some people will go back and forth on it. If it were a silent shva, shouldn't there be a weak dagesh right there? Should be, not always, but there should be. I would say that this makes an argument for. Tell you what, instead of let's take this vav back a couple of steps. We take it back one step. There should be two shvas right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And before that, remember that the original form of the conjunction vav was va. Long vowel ah, va, rechusho. This is an audible shva. Anytime you see u, it's a syllable of its own because it was originally va.
Really?
Yeah. And we still get to see this va show up occasionally, like in, we don't say ve aretz, do we? It's va'aretz. You'll notice in a lot of words that have stress next to the vav that the vav maintains its original form, va. There's another word, malla. Anybody know what this word means? Malla.
Above.
Yeah, upward. Yeah, going upward. And so what if you put a vav in front of it? Is it uma? No, it's not. It's vamala. In fact, I think it's got a full kamatz here because of the stress. Vamala. There's your original form of the conjunction. It's just that it's usually far enough away from the stress that that kamatz drops to a shva. So we say and is a vav with a shva. Not originally, but it usually becomes that. Yes.
What about the other words where um the the second letter loses any vowel and it's almost like a closed syllable with the ooh. I can't think of an example right now. Like what's happening there?
Right. So I would argue that the shva that follows any u is going to be an audible shva. But there are some people that, in my opinion, mistakenly believe that it's a silent shva. But if you can think of an example, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay. The gam et. So let's see. He returned all of the goods. The gam and also et lot. Direct object marker Lot, his brother. Achiv. Urechusho. And his goods. Heshiv. He brought back. This is our Vayitol narrative past. This is a regular katal. He did it. Heshiv. Vagam. Oh, something else he brought back. Et hanashim. The women. Funny how the word women looks nothing like the word woman. Or does it? Why is there a dagesh in Isha?
Insha.
Because of the noon. By the way, if anybody knows anything about consonant shifts and how certain letters represented more than one sound, sheen does represent both a sh sound and a th sound. This one is the th one, ita or inta or intat or something like that. Also, the word shalosh, like in Aramaic, the word shalosh is tlat. Why? Because they came from this version of sheen instead of that one. Sheen was originally two consonants. He also brought back the women, ve'et ha'am, and the people. All right. Vayetze, where's Melky? Where's Melky Tzedek? Did we meet? No, we haven't seen him yet, have we? All right, who wants to read?
I'll try, but I need help. I'm gonna tell you.
Do you want me to read and you repeat, or do you want to give it a try?
Vayetze.
Vayetze,
Vayetze. Molech.
melech, two S sounds, melech.
Okay. Sarom.
Sodom, good. That's a dalet. Sodom.
Laka. Ratsu.
There's an O sound right there. Sorry, all those dots are in the way. Likrato.
Okay, that's because that's the
That's the whole above. Yeah, likrato.
okay. Okay, I'm talking about that with the stress. The stress is on all, right?
Yes. So this the stress is at the end, likrato. It's actually not because of the cantillation mark. This one always shows up at the end.
Okay.
When a cantillation mark shows you where the stress is, it'll be on the consonant that starts the syllable. So like this one, or this one, or this one. Whereas that one, not so much, this one, not so much, and this one, not so much. Those don't show where the stress is. They always show up at the end.
Okay.
It's convenient that the stress is at the end on that word, but it doesn't actually show where it goes. The scribes were more concerned with us singing or chanting the text correctly than they were with where the stress goes. So that's why they placed it there.
Okay. Ahari.
Acharei.
Shubo?
Shuvo.
Shubo, okay. Mahahu, hoot, Mahahoot.
Yeah, but make an O sound. See the dot over the word.
Right.
Mehakot.
Okay. So that's Kaf doesn't make the CH sound before the O.
Only if it has a missing dot, remember? Like this
Okay.
one over here is H, but this one over here is K.
Okay.
Mehakot.
Mahachot. Et Kadar. Latzmer.
Leomer. Leomer.
Okay,
Okay,
I
so
missed
this
it.
is actually a closed and unstressed syllable, so it's going to have an O sound.
Okay.
Kador, Kador Laomer.
I missed those whole ones too much.
Yeah, it's too many dots. I get that. Ve'et,
Ve'et ham. Oh God, how do I do that? Because I know that's a silent schwa.
is it though? There's a dagesh in the mem.
Oh, okay. That matters. Okay, I didn't know that.
It
Okay.
does. If there's a dagesh, it means the letter is grammatically doubled. So it's
Yeah, I know
gotta be
that.
an audible schwa. Ham
Okay. Hamela, Hamela, come. Is that right?
chim, hamlachim.
Hamela King.
There you
That's the
go.
king.
Hamlachim.
Asher, Atu,
Ito. Ito.
Ito. El Atzmach.
It's not a tzadi, it's an ayin.
Some.
Do you see the difference between the tzadi and the ayin? So
Yes,
tzadi is the one with the ts. Ayin represents that sound that nobody likes. Emek. Emek.
Imek. Okay. Imek. Show.
Shave.
Shabe.
Yeah. Sha.
That's not a whole one. Okay.
With
Shabe.
right, exactly. Who?
Hua.
Just
Or who?
Who?
Who? Stomach.
Emek. Emek. It's not
Imek.
tzadi. Emek.
Imek. Okay. Yeah, that one at the front of a word messes with me.
Yeah, I get it. Emek HaMelech.
Hamelech.
That's right. Emek HaMelech. Very good. Vayetze Melech Sodom. This is from Yatzah. And then he went out. Melech Sodom, the king of Sodom, Likrato, to approach him. This kara is not the kufresh aleph of calling out or reading. It's actually the kufresh yod of the word likrot. Likrot is to happen upon. So why did it turn to an aleph here? Great question. I don't have a good answer for that. But kara, there is another verb kara, which means to happen upon, and that makes a lot more sense here. Likrato, to meet him. Acharei shuvo, after the return belonging to him, after his return. Mehakot, from. Now this is an infinitive, hakot, to strike. The one we saw earlier. Remember, vayikem, and he struck them. This is the same one. We don't get to see the noon, but we see it's dagesh. Here's the kaf, second root letter, and we don't get to see the yod. From striking, striking whom? Kedol Haomer. Now, we didn't read the whole story, but this is one of the kings that took all of the booty. And Abram defeated him. Ve'et hamlachim, and the kings,
Yeah.
asher ito, that
Sure.
with him, the ones that were with him.
Yes.
And how far did he defeat them? El Emek Shaveh, to the valley of Shaveh. Apparently, it's a the word Shaveh means something like making equal or bringing down. So I don't know why the valley is called Shaveh, but it is. So we'll call that a proper name. Emek Shaveh. Hu Emek Hamelech. He is the valley of the king. All right, questions? Oh, here's an interesting verse. Who wants to read this one?
Me.
All right, go ahead, Eileen.
Let's see. Okay. My spoon. Spoon is a little too much. Melachi Mitzedek Melech
Umalkitzedek.
Tzedek Umali Tzedek Melech Salem
Shalem.
Ha Utsa
Hotzi.
Otzi Lechem Veagafen
Vayayin. Vayayin.
Vayayin.
Mhm.
Vayayin. Okay. Vehu Kohen
Mhm.
al no le al
Le'el.
le'el Savaot
This is Elyon.
Elion.
Elyon. Very good. Vehu chohen le'el Elyon. Umalkitzedek melech shalem hotzi lechem vayayin. Vehu chohen le'el Elyon. All right, so here we get to see va turned into u in front of the bilabial mem. Here, the va stayed the same because it's right next to a pausal form. Here, it went all the way down to a shva for one reason or another. So this vav that means and is all over the place. So frustrating. Malkitzedek. What does the name Malkitzedek mean?
The
righteous
righteous
one.
king,
King of righteousness.
righteousness.
King of righteousness. The yod here, if anybody saw my recent video on this passage, is probably a genitive yod, which means of something else. King of righteousness. But it preaches well that the chirik yod also means my. So some people say my king is righteous, or my king of righteousness, or something like that. Melech Shalem. Shalem is Salem. What would ultimately be called Yerushalem.
Ushalayim.
Yeru meaning casting a cornerstone, and Shalem probably referring to the deity that the city's named after, but ultimately Shalem and Shalom have to do with peace. So some people will call Jerusalem City of Peace, even though it doesn't have ir with an ayin in it. It has no ayin. Anyway, hotzi comes from the root yatsa, but it's in the hif'il, causing to come out. What did he cause to come out? He brought out lechem, bread, vayayin, and wine. Well, that was awful nice of him. He brought a gift.
Food and drink.
Food and drink. Exactly. Food and drink. Well done, Abram. Here is bread and drink. The Midrash takes this quite a step further and says that it's referring to the bread and wine of the mincha offering and the wine. What is it called? Oblation offerings, the drink offerings, and so therefore Melchizedek is transferring his priesthood over to Abram, which would ultimately end up in the hands of Levi. Otherwise, the
Right.
question arises, why does Israel get to have a priesthood? Why does Levi get to have a priesthood? And the rabbis will say, oh, it's because of Melchizedek. He actually gave him the priesthood here in this verse. Huh, okay. Vehu Chohen, and he is a ministering one. Remember, that's a participle.
Yeah.
From the root meaning to minister, but we'll translate it as priest. It's usually translated as such. He was the priest, le'el elyon, to El, or God,
El
elyon,
Elyon.
the highest.
Wow.
So was
I
Melchizedek a Hebrew?
Say again, Monica, what was your question?
Was Melchizedek, he was a Hebrew?
Oh, no. No, there is no indication that he was a Hebrew. He was the king
So,
of Salem, which ultimately becomes Jebus, which is a Canaanite inhabited city. We know nothing about Melchizedek. In fact, that's the point that the New Testament makes. We know nothing about him. We don't know anything about his parents, where he comes from, where he goes. And then the writer of Hebrews takes that fact of not knowing anything about him and overlays it on the person of Yeshua as a messianic and um, celestial individual. Don't really know where he came from, or he's not really going to go anywhere. So in that way, he's like Melchizedek. It's an interesting midrash.
So I did listen to your presentation on that verse, and although I've forgotten what it was, the reason it struck a chord because Chana Basala pointed out that the name Jerusalem or Yerushalayim comes from the Canaanite god Shalim, and there was one other one. So I looked it up, and in the COJS, the Center for Online Judaic Studies, the Egyptians. I read the execration text from 1840 BCE, and they were describing the name of Jerusalem as Rusalimum. And as I'm reading the text, as though they're looking from Egypt, they're looking at Salem, they're looking at Melchizedek, wondering, okay, they're trying to piece together what this word means, Jerusalem, because I know what you're talking about from Judges 19:10, where it's called Jebus from the Jebusites. But it's a fascinating when you start piecing it together. You've got portions of archaeology and linguistics to try to piece together what the history actually is. Fascinating
I
to me.
remember I remember your question about whether Jebus and Yerushalayim were related, and I did look into it, and I could not find anyone that equated the two.
Right.
So everything I saw says they're linguistically not related. So maybe whoever was at Shalem was defeated, and the Jebusites took over at some point while Israel was down in Egypt. Maybe there's no way to know. It's speculation, but there doesn't appear to be any linguistic connection between the two. But yeah, Jerusalem has quite a history. It's a lot to be said. All right, and then we get a blessing from Melchizedek for Abram. Who wants to read the blessing?
I'll try it.
Go ahead.
Vaye, vaye, ber, ber, berahu,
Vayvarechehu.
rabehu, ev, um, vayomen,
Vayomar. It's in pausal form, so we put a comma.
Vayomar. Barahu.
Baruch.
Baruch. Abraham.
Avram.
Abraham. Le'elion.
Le'el Elyon. Good. There's an O sound. Kone.
Kone. Shamayim.
Shemayim.
Be'aretz.
Va'aretz. There's that va again, original form of the va. Va'aretz. All right. Vayivarechehu. This ehu at the end. What did I mention about it? Apparently, it's the original 3ms suffix. The one that ultimately turns into O, the one that we know and love so much. So it could be Vaivarecho, but that would be later. Vaivarechehu seems to be an earlier version. So we've got narrative past. He is the subject, probably referring to Melchizedek. What's the root? Berech, to bless. And he blessed him. This is not Vayomer, it's Vayomar, because it's in pausal form. That's all right, you said it correctly. Vayomar is pausal because here starts the quote. Baruch Avram le'el elyon. This is a passive participle. Blessed is Avram. Or blessed be Avram. You can see how that's how they translated it here.
Yeah.
Honestly, whether Melchizedek is referring to Abram to continue to be blessed, or whether he's already blessed, is kind of a moot point in the ancient Near East. The fact that Abram just beat all these kings and took all of the people and the possessions back shows that he is already blessed. The gods are clearly in his favor, as it were. But this is Melchizedek, god of the priest of the god of the God Most High. So this is going to be a blessing about El Elyon only. Clearly, Abram is already blessed, but sure, I get it. He will continue to be blessed as long as he continues to do the things that are pleasant in God's eyes. He is blessed, Le'el Elyon, to the God Most High. We saw that earlier. Kone is another participle, the one owning or possessing. Shamayim, sky. Va'aretz, and the earth. Adrian, you have your hand up. You have a question?
I was going to ask about that word, kone. You were talking a while ago about owned. That is the root for it. Is that right?
Kone's root is kuf nun yod. And the yod is missing. There's a vowel hey right here, but this is the same root in the word mikne. Livestock. It is it's the stock is actually what you own. So livestock is referring to cattle that you kone, possess, own. It's the store of your wealth. Mikne, the livestock.
Okay, thank you.
This also appears to be, whether correct or not, it can be debated, but it appears to be the biblical reason that Cain is named, because his mom says, I have received or procured or possessed a man from the Lord. So it uses this word or that root in order to name Cain. Kuf nun. Granted, there's a yod in the middle, but it's okay. Hebrew likes to play around with letters like that. All right. I'm afraid I have to go. I hope you all have enjoyed this. If anybody wants to support these free classes, here's how you can do it. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all next week for the next Torah portion. Until then, lehitrot.
Israel.
Shalom.
Israel.
להתראות. תודה.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Thank you,
Shalom,
Jared.
shalom.